What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick, and this is the Detroit Lions version of the ROTL UK podcast, the one that lasted 2 minutes or 2 hours. I'm very grateful to be here with you this evening. Hope everyone is well. We are going to be taking a look at pre-season game 1 against the New York Giants today. Going to have a little breakdown of that, see some players who did good, some players who did bad. Then we're going to sort of have a look at a few questions that may have arisen from that for preseason game 2 against Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, if there are any questions you guys have for me this evening, then just put them in the chat and I will try and get through to them for you. So as you might notice, I am on my own this evening, like Donkey from Shrek. I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me, but Matt is on holiday. Actually still having problems with his internet, and the other guys have work, etc. Of course, life goes on for everybody. So I didn't want to miss today, because we do the one show a week, really. Didn't want to go 2 weeks without us doing something. My streams are notorious sometimes for cutting out, etc. I'm getting an upgrade to my system so we can do more in future, and I can do more in future, stream the college shows every week. So hopefully this runs smoothly this evening. If there's any audio issues, any issues like that, just let me know in the comments. I've spent all day trying to fix little issues that I've had, 'cause it's been so long since I've live streamed one, but I'm hoping at least this goes alright this evening. Hope you're all well. I can see Brent DeWitt in the chat there. Lisa De Lorenzo's in the building. Teardrop Floyd is in the building. Hope you are all doing well. Hope you've all had a lovely weekend. It's been absolutely beautiful over here. We're in the midst of a little bit of a heat wave at the moment, so which has been great. Don't know if anyone saw our Twitter, but I put up a lovely photo. I was out in the Peak District yesterday. We had a Lancaster fly over us. Glorious sunshine. It's been beautiful, and of course, it's all summed up by the fact we've got Detroit Lions football back as well, which is great. Let's get all this housekeeping stuff out the way first, and then I'll just let you know what's going down. So don't forget, Roar of the Lions UK Discord. If you're wanting on that, let us know. We'll fire you across a link. The College Football Podcast, myself and Ryan will be back this week, hopefully finishing off our preview of the Sun Belt. We're still going through conference preview season. We're going to be getting that done, and I'm hoping we're going to have a special episode this weekend as well, just trying to sort that out. But I'm hoping our good friend Gerald is going to come back, talk HBCU football with us, if not the weekend, very soon before the season starts. So we got a lot going on there. Do come check that out if you get an opportunity. And of course, with the college football season coming along, you got any questions, anything you want to know, just ask me and Ryan. We are a font of knowledge about college football, so we will get those questions answered for you. Don't forget to like and sub to all our channels, etc. It really helps us, and we really, really appreciate all of you who do that. Don't forget, we're part of Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's pet project to bring together the best in Lions YouTube content creators. Yeah, and we're part of that, which we are extremely honoured to be a part of, and there's going to be a lot coming soon. You might see me doing a bit of content on their channel for them as well, don't worry. Still here, this is my main time thing, but everyone's going to be chipping into the LNU content scene soon, make that better, more diverse, and help Mike out. Mike is the GOAT, and we'll all be alongside him. Don't forget, we're Twitch affiliate, monetized on YouTube, all that good stuff. If you want to help us that way, great, but honestly, we just love having you all in the building, listening to us, picking us as your Detroit Lions podcast to listen to. And we've got the merch store as well, so if you want to get any merch from us, we'll fire the link for that and you can go across, get some from there. Right, got all that stuff out the way there. So I say, tonight, just because it's me on my own, we're not going to go in depth into the news and everything. You know, Matt and Ash love to do that sort of stuff, and I would, but I don't want you to get bored of me all evening. So we're going to do a couple of high level little bits from the pre-season 1 game. Then I'm going to go through the position groups, like give my inputs, my thoughts on how they did, you know, who did well, who did bad. Once we've gone through that, we're just going to literally look at some questions maybe that have come up for week 2 against Kansas City. There's a tiny bit of news to go through as well. Before we do though, and it's a shame that I've got none of the other guys here this evening, because this is a big thing for us. I just want to do I did stop a little bit first. I did it on Twitter the other day, but 3 days ago, it was our 4th anniversary as a podcast. So 4 years ago, during COVID, for the first time ever, 5 guys met up on a random internet Zoom call talked a little bit about the Detroit Lions and posted it to see if anybody bar ourselves would listen. And I remember I did it for the first time I'd ever podcasted, done anything like this. I had no idea that 4 years later I would still be doing this, that I would be enjoying it, that I would be working with Herbert Moore, that I would be working with some of the best content creators the Detroit Lions have to offer. And just over these 4 years, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us along the way, everybody who has supported us. We put so much time and effort into doing these shows. It's literally a second job, and we don't really get anything back from it apart from the enjoyment of doing it all and being with you guys. So when we say we enjoy you guys being in the chat and everything, and we're not lying. You know, if you guys hadn't have supported us the way you have done over the last 4 years, we wouldn't be doing this. We'd have quit a long time ago. But we went from getting like 6 listens a week when we started this again. 5 of them were probably us, and 1 was Ash when he was a listener to start with. We're now up to 113,000 audio listens. We're up to over 120,000 views on YouTube. The Twitch is getting there. We're approaching 5,000 followers on Twitter, all that sort of stuff. And you know, this has been big for us all, and for me especially. Like, I can't tell you how much good this has done for me. This podcast, it has brought me out my shell. You know, my public speaking, all this, my confidence level with everything has just gone through the roof, and we're really proud of what we've done here. The 5 of us who started, me, Matt, Aaron, Ryan Farden, International Fan of the Year, Martin Birrell, and obviously we've lost guys over the years. We've added guys, we've added Ash, we've added Brian McCluskey, we've added Steve Collins, we've added Tom Wilkinson. You know, it's just been a roller coaster. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody making these 4 years great for us. And you've got us hooked on it now, so you know, you've stuck with us now. You're going to be stuck with us for a long time to come. So, you know, that's on you, whatever happens from here. But I really appreciate it. I just wanted to give a shout out to us on our 4th anniversary there. Right, soppy stuff all over. Let's get on to the meat and bones of the evening. There's a little bit of news just to go through first. Obviously, with it being camp season, there are a lot of guys trialling out at the minute. You know, injuries happen, practice squad battles, all that sort of stuff. You're going to see a lot of guys come in and out the building really fast. But there's been one signing made, as far as I'm aware, since the first game by the Detroit Lions. Jamarco Jones, the offensive tackle, last with the Tennessee Titans, I believe it was, in 2023. He's played 21 games with 4 starts at Seattle, but he's not played a game since 2021. He missed 22 with injury, then he missed 23. He got dismissed by the Titans, a couple of fracas in camp. I think the first one he started a fight off with Jeffrey Simmons, which is silly. No one starts a fight with him. And then I think he chop blocked one of his own guys during a practice, started off a big fight. So they kicked him off the team. However, he is a guy who was highly thought of once upon a time. We need some O-line depth, seriously. So he's coming in, obviously with the injuries that are piling up. We're going to give him a go, see if he can offer anything. He does have experience in the NFL, which a lot of our linemen lack currently. So, you know, going to be an interesting addition there. But yeah, Jamarco Jones has been signed. We'll wait to see what goes on with that. Like I say, there's loads of guys trialing, and I'm not going to go through them all because most of them are not even going to make the roster to start with, or hell, even be signed by us to start with. So, yeah. Right, let's move on. So we're going to talk about the Lions and the Giants. So, again, not going to go down in depth, drive by drive, everything like that. You've probably heard it, or I shouldn't laugh at that, Tedsy, but I did. You made me chuckle there. But no, we can't wish violence on Sudfeld. He's not been great, but yeah, that did make me laugh, and I probably shouldn't have. So yeah, Lions at Giants. Lions went to East Rutherford, pre-season game 1. They lost 14-3. Eric Gray had a couple of rushing touchdowns for the Giants. Solitary Jake Bates field goal for the Lions. Now, obviously, it's pre-season. We don't really care about the results. It's, you know, just something to nothing. We really care about the performances of the players, and that's what we're going to focus on this evening. But I said, yeah, we did lose 14-3, and came at a bit of an injury cost to us as well this game. So 7 guys down all together. So Connor Galvin left tackle. He's gone for the season. It was a torn MCL and PCL, I believe. But yeah, he's done, which is a shame, coming into year 2 out of Baylor, hoping he'd make a step up onto that backup offensive line this coming year, and he played well in the game before he got hurt. So massive shame there for him. David Bader, the defensive lineman from Germany, he's likely out for the season. I know he's done his Achilles. I mean, it's probably, he's all said and done for us now. He's not going to recover at earliest till probably looking towards the playoffs, so the likes of him coming back to the team, but his season is pretty much over, which is a great shame for him as well. And then another big injury to Nate Lynn, our defensive end, undrafted free agent from William and Mary, who had a monster game the other day. Didn't even realise he was hurt at the time, but he's also out for the season. It's a shoulder injury, which is a massive shame for him, because he was one of those guys who was on the edge looking in, who made a massive push in that game, to try and establish himself as a 53-man roster guy. And that edge position battle at depth is open, as we'll talk about in a bit. So huge disappointment there for Nate Lynn. And then we had a few other minor injuries. Hendon Hooker and Antoine Green both left the games with concussions. James Houston has a bit of a bone bruise in his knee, and Maurice Norris had a bit of a hamstring injury as well. But none of those 4 are expected to be serious or putting them out for the long term. Obviously, Hooker's not going to be practicing this week, which is not ideal. But for the others, expected to be very short term. Probably see most of them in game 2 if they get out of protocol and they get over these little knocks. And obviously, the guys who are out for the season are joining a lengthy list already. Kaminsky is out injured. Emmanuel Mosley injured. Both of them are likely going to IR. And obviously Natane Mooty's done for the season as well. So the Lions have had a lot of season-ending injuries early this season, which is a shame. You kind of hope these guys get off the roster by being cut because they just weren't good enough in a really competitive room. You always hate to see it when an injury, just destroys someone's season like that. So obviously thoughts to all of those guys who are hurt. Hopefully they're able to recover and get another shot next year. So let's just go down straight into the positional battles from what's gone on in this game. So we're just going to start with the quarterbacks. And yeah, anyone got any opinions on the quarterbacks? I've heard no opinions about the quarterbacks this weekend whatsoever. So obviously 2 of them in the game for us. Nate Sudfeld, 13 of 24, 96 yards. 1 interception, ran 3 times for 14 yards. Hendon Hooker saw his first snaps as a Detroit Lion. He went 5 of 9 for 36 yards. He had 4 rushes for 34 yards as well. Unfortunately, one of those rushes resulted in his concussion. He decided that he was going to become a running back and absolutely trucked the hell out of a linebacker. Can't remember which one exactly it was, but man put his head down, took him out, got some extra yards. It's good to see and bad to see at the same time with your rookies. But yeah, the predominant thought coming out about the quarterbacks after this is Sudfeld is not it. After a whole off-season of training camp where we've been told that he's looking really good, he's got command of the offense, he's looking better than he has before. This is the problem with Camp Warriors when they do really well and not believing all the hype about them. When it comes to game time, it's a lot different. And yeah, Nate Sudfeld struggled. A lot of, the interception was awful. There were a lot of passes that could have been made that weren't. He was throwing at about 53-54% against the New York Giants backup. That is not good for accuracy, and it creates other problems around the team as well that we're going to talk about. But Sudfeld doesn't look like he's going to be it. I think maybe not a lot of people had, opinions about quarterback 2 battle potentially going into this week. I kind of did, because Hooker's not played and he's learning the offense. There's a lot for him to learn. I wondered if there would be sort of a little bit of a battle there for it, but obviously that's gone now. Hendon Hooker, he looked good. The rushing is a concern. I tweeted this out actually before he went off with the concussion. I said he's got to not. He was very willing to run, which is good for a quarterback, and obviously it's been a long time since we've had a proper dual threat quarterback on here. Staff didn't used to do it that often. Jared Goff certainly doesn't really do it. Now we've got a guy who can scramble and can get out there. That's great, but we've already seen the pitfall of it as well. They get injured easy, and for Hendon Hooker, I liked what I saw for him with his arms. I like, the throws were good, the running was good, but you have got to be better at protecting yourself as a quarterback. He did it 2 runs before. Every single run, he was taking on contact and not sliding. That's the problem with a dual threat. Concussions can happen easy. Injuries can happen easy. And Hooker's going to miss a full week of practice now while he can't afford to. So, obviously, while it was nice to see him out there and he looked like he was getting into his groove, that's something he's going to have to sort really quickly because, like I say, with him, his injury history, his age, he cannot afford to miss significant time with concussions. So, yeah, the question has been answered there as to who the 2 is. It's probably going to be Hendon Hooker, but he has got to protect himself better there. And then, obviously, it raises questions about the future of preseason. Tedsy mentions it here. Would you bring in a vet number 2? I'll talk about that at the end when it's questions going into week 2, because certainly the argument about bringing a vet in is going to have more validity going forward. Because Hooker, if he's not training all week, is unlikely to play as well. So we remain to be seen on that. I know they're looking for a guy. I do probably expect they're going to bring someone in, but we'll get to that when we come. But yeah, certainly at quarterback, the Nate Sudfeld thing's dead. He is just, he's not it. Hooker's the guy, unless they decide they want to bring someone like Tannehill or that in to have a go early. But yeah, Sudfeld isn't it. Oh, sorry, have a quick drink. Right, so we'll move on to the running backs. So, tough day for the running backs on a whole. Obviously, the offensive line play, we'll get onto them in a minute, was not great. But to be fair, in this whole preseason, I've watched a lot of the preseason games. The offensive line play from the backups has been horrendous. Feels like it's been the worst it's been in the NFL in a long time. But in terms of the running backs, Sione Vaki, 4 carries, 29 yards. Jake Funk, 4 carries, 9 yards. Zonovan Knight had 6 carries for 12 yards. He had 2 receptions on 2 targets for 10 yards as well. The only running back who had catches. You got Craig Reynolds, who had 4 carries for 11 yards. Jamar Jefferson, 5 carries for 9 yards. And just to note, there were 118 rushing yards from the Lions in this game. Over 90 of them were after contact. And pretty much all of them were to Hendon Hooker on his big run before he hit the linebacker. Like, the running backs had nothing to work with whatsoever. All Jamar Jefferson's yards were after contact. He literally was not given 1 yard beyond the line of scrimmage where he didn't get hit by a defender before he was swallowed up. Same with Zonovan Knight and pretty much all these guys. They were just getting swallowed up early. They didn't really have much chance to make an impression, and it's made evaluating them very difficult in terms of the depth positions. But there was the one guy who stood out, Sione Vaki. Everyone had that one run he had, the 15-yard run where he forced a couple of missed tackles. He made his own way through in spite of the O-line play there, and it was very promising. Obviously, we spent 3 draft picks essentially on him, trading up to get him. He was a safety. We've converted him to running back, but you can see the idea behind it. His change of movement, the ability through contact was really good, really promising. Obviously, it's a small sample size, but it's what preseason's about, right? Those are his first snaps for the Lions against, in an NFL environment, and Sione Vaki did really well, I have to say. Like, He's one of the ones who really pushed his case to cement his place on the roster this week, because all the other running backs just didn't really get a chance to impress. But it was really good to see him. I thought Bam Knight was good. Like, as a receiver, he looked like he could be a dual threat guy. Couple of catches in there, couple of tough runs for some tough yardage. But yeah, it's just very difficult to see much there. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to evaluate talent. You don't care about the score. You're trying to evaluate talent. For the running backs, it was difficult. Just shout out to everyone else who's joined in. Say Teddy Wells in there, Independent Aquaman's in there, Roger Pease is in the building. I didn't have much expectations for the game. They were playing during Hurricane Debbie. The field was soaked, the ball was slicked. Actually, yeah, the weather conditions were horrible. I do have to mention that for this. So obviously tough on the quarterbacks, etc. But it's pre-season. You're going to have to go through this at some points during the season. So, no excuses for some of these guys there. I think they did very well in the circumstances. So yeah, Sione Vaki in the running back room did really well. The rest of them, I'm not going to knock any of them down for it. Like I say, they didn't really get a chance to impress. The line did not give them a chance there. In the receiver room, so it's really interesting with the receivers. Loads of guys getting loads of opportunities to shine. This is very much an open battle for those depth spots. So I'm just going to run through it very quickly here. Isaiah Williams, he had 24 snaps. He was 4 of 4 for 35 yards. Without doubt, the standout receiver of the day, the UDFA from Illinois. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 23 snaps. He was 1 of 2 for 26 yards. Obviously, had the big catch for him. That's what we all know he can do. It was good to see it, but it was really his only opportunity to get anything there. Antoine Green, perfect 3 of 3, just 13 yards, but they come your way. You've got to catch them, got to do what you can with it. He saw 21 snaps on the day. Maurice Alexander also saw 21 snaps. Not a good day for him. He was 1 catch on 3 targets for 6 yards, and obviously he had the pair of muffed kick returns as well, which he dropped, which thankfully we didn't give up, but that's his calling card onto the team. That's the trouble he's going to have there. Caden Davis, 1 of 3 for 5 yards. He saw 17 snaps. Tom Kennedy, 1 of 2 for 4 yards, saw 22 snaps. Jalen Calhoun, 1 of 2 for 2 yards, saw 15 snaps. Darius Fountain had 27 snaps, the most of any receiver, but he was targeted 3 times. No catches there. And then Traquan Smith, the milk carton wide receiver, who we've just heard nothing of at all. He had 14 snaps on the day, not a single target. So this is very interesting, the wide receiver room, right? It's like the running backs. You know, we're looking for depth there. We're looking for guys who are going to stand up and say, I'm the guy. And certainly going out of this game, well, there's 2 big ones here. Isaiah Williams, like say, 35 yards, 4 catches, 4 targets. Just, you've got to be great with your hands. Every throw that comes your way in the preseason, catch it. If you're on one of those roster spots to show you've got good hands, you're confident with your ball skills, one of the best ways to get yourself on the roster as well as doing your special teams stuff. And I thought he looked really good. His route running was crisp. The technique was good. Like I say, his hands were really good. He was getting some good yak as well, giving their cornerbacks problems. So big props there for Isaiah Williams and Antoine Green as well. I know only 13 yards on the day, etc. But again, you've got to keep catching what comes your way. Just 3 targets, caught them all, got some good yardage. And again, in this very intense battle, some people think he might be in danger on the edge of the roster bubble this year. Potentially he might be, but if you carry on doing that, I think you're going to be just fine. Look good on special teams as well. So those guys really shone out. I mean, it's really the experienced guys who are letting down here. Traquan Smith is just, I don't know. At one point, he was a very good receiver for the New Orleans Saints. And you kind of thought, like, rotation guy, perfect. He's the guy you want to go in there, get 300-400 yards in a year. Just get those little bits like the, bits we had last year and nothing. He's going to be gone. He's probably going to be one of the first cuts off the roster if it carries on as it is. For Fountain, it was a shame because, 3 targets, no receptions, no drops on him really. This was tough for the receivers because when you've got substandard quarterback play, when you've got Nate Sudfeld playing for basically 3 quarters plus of the game, it's very hard for the receivers to be able to show out. So again, it makes the evaluations of them very tough. Is it just bad quarterback play? Is it bad receiver play? It's just very difficult. So obviously, some of the guys managed to show out. Isaiah Williams, Antoine Green did. Others, like Fountain, Calhoun, Caden Davis has been playing really well in camp. I think you're going to have to see another week of them. Hope that whoever is under centre next week, if it is Sudfeld or if it is a replacement for Sudfeld, or hell, if Hooker is able to go, which would be great, then we can really see some of these guys come out. But certainly Williams and Green have pushed themselves into that conversation there now. So good to see. You want to see these young guys showing up, and they were able to in tough circumstances. Again, when you're catching all your catches in heavy rain like that, always going to be good there for you. Keitho in the building. Hope you're doing well, Keitho. We're not talked about Broderick yet. Oh, don't worry. I'm getting to Broderick. I'm fighting the one-man Broderick, hype train here. Not one man. There's a lot of people who like him, but I love him more than most. But yeah, we're going through the position groups one by one just to give my thoughts on there. So yeah, receivers, pros not impressing, the young guys impressing, but need a bit more time to see them there. Jeff Merrill says Nate held the wide receiver room back on Thursday. Agreed. That's why I'm not going to be too harsh on any of these guys. Even Fountain, not going to be harsh on him. We'll see what it's like with some better QB playing. Hopefully better weather against the Chiefs on Saturday. Moving into the tight end room, another heavily contested area going into this game, and a lot of people not sure who's going to be the guy there. We used 4 tight ends in this. James Mitchell, Parker Hesse, Shane Zylstra and Sean McKeon. He's the old Cowboys tight end, if I remember rightly. James Mitchell saw 20 snaps, one catch for 11 yards. Run blocking grade was up at 63. He was the best graded run blocker of all the tight ends for this game. I know you know how I'll feel about PFF, but this is really all I can go off. So I thought he did good catch. Did look like he was doing well against the run. People think he might be in danger for this roster, James Mitchell, but I thought he did a very good showing here. Parker Hesse, 18 snaps. He had one catch for 8 yards. He had a 60 run block grade. Shane Zylstra, one catch for 7 yards. He was 56 against the run. Sean McKeon, he had 31 snaps. He played more at tight end than anybody else. And if you're looking at snap counts, maybe an interesting one there to see. He had one catch for 5 yards, but he only graded at 53 against the run. All of them caught their only target as well. So as far as the tight ends went, they were 4 for 4 on receptions, which is good. But maybe, not too much to derive from this. All we know is this is a very good... This is, when Ben Johnson said it is a very competitive tight end room, I know it is easy to sort of roll your eyes and go, oh yeah, that's coach speak maybe. But we've got a star, we've got a workhorse in Brock Wright, and then behind him we've got all these guys really fighting for it out. Not one of them dropped a catch. They all came in, did well. It's a very competitive room, and one that I think is going to go down to the wire. That's going to be one of those that's probably almost going to be a roster cut day decision for Dan and Brad. I think, it's going to be very difficult. So, yeah, that is with the tight ends. Now, we get to the offensive line, and this is tough. Like I say, I've watched a lot of the preseason games. We're just glad to have NFL football back over here. So I've watched probably 8 or 9 of the preseason games, and one of the things I've taken away from it, that backup O-lines are terrible. There's been some absolutely atrocious O-line play this week, but I'm looking at the Lions and what we're about, and as you all know on this show, I am a lot more critical about our backup O-line than the rest of them are. It's great, we're all allowed our own opinions, but colour me concerned after this week 1 just gone. Not panicking, no one panics over preseason, but some of my fears, I think, are a little bit justified at this moment in time. So I'll go through the positions. So at left tackle, we had Giovanni Manu, played 35 snaps. Connor Galvin, he played 25 at left tackle and 25 at right tackle. So he was playing essentially as a swing tackle and was great. I loved what Connor Galvin was doing. I've sort of talked him up for a little while. I loved what he did back at Baylor. And I thought he was working his way into contention for this year, and that injury is just brutal. He's gone now, so he was one of the best guys on the line on this day, and to lose him is it's critical because we're running low on depth, and we're running low on established depth as well. So, unlucky for him. Dan Skipper had 9 snaps. So Giovanni Manu, to start off with, I thought he had a horrible game, and now I'm trying to keep this in perspective. We all know he is a guy who is at least 2 years away from seeing the field properly, but if there was anyone out there who kind of had this, maybe a little inkling of a suspicion that maybe, just maybe, he might surprise us early, he didn't. Like, against the speed rush especially, PFF only graded him with giving up 1 quarterback hit. That's rubbish. He gave up 2 sacks on the day. One that was in the red zone and one that was near our own. Neil gave away a safety, but just 2 straight up speed rushes where his hands were just tossed to one side like they were nothing. It's the problems he's going to have. He's a big unit. He's a massive unit, but the taller guys have problems with speed rushers, and he had a lot of problem with the speed rushers on this day. And this isn't the Giants. This isn't Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. This is their backup guys who were working on him there. The run game, it wasn't quite there either. The technique, trying to lever those holes out. Like I said, the running game had a lot of problems. There were a lot of tackles for loss, and a lot of them coming through that left-hand side. He had a tough one. Saying that, we expected it, right? He's coming from Canada. The standard is going up a lot. The expectation here is very high. And I have no doubt that in a few years, he could be really good for us, but I think this game really just exposed how far behind that he is right now, and really, we don't want to be using him as a backup this year. Like, I just don't really want to be giving him significant reps. If we're going to use him for a 6th man play, going to bring in a trick play, just a big, your big formations where you're going to come in, run it over the line, fine. Anything seriously above that, I'm not quite there right now. So Manu struggled, but I'm not knocking. Like, it's going to happen, and we'll probably see a bit more of it. Hopefully we see a little bit of an improvement next week, but it was a rough first outing for him there. In terms of left guard, so we had three guys playing here. So Duke Clemens, he played 30 snaps there. Ike Boetka, the guy we just got, the NFL guy, he had 21 snaps there. And we had Coyote Awashika. He played as a swing guard. He played 18 reps at left guard and 16 at right guard. And Coyote had a really good day. He had that really good play where he recovered the pick, was it, I think Sudfeld threw a pick. They got the fumble recovery. He chased the guy down fast. Like, he chased down a corner and ripped the ball out of his arms and was able to get the ball back for us. So an interception turned into a fumble recovery, which gave us the ball back. But I like Awashika. He's the first name on the depth chart for us going into next season. Like, he's the first guy you go and plug and play there if there's an injury anywhere across the line. So I liked what I saw from Awashika. Boetka looked terrible. Not going to sugarcoat it. He's not been with the Lions long, but he is NFL experienced. He just looked completely out of his depth against that New York D-line. They've got some good guys on this D-line, I'm not going to lie. Even the depth guys look pretty damn good against us, but I expected more from Boetka and what he would bring in. Just 21 snaps as well. He really struggled. Clemens looked good. Nothing spectacular, but, again, first time on our line. He looked decent. I enjoyed what I saw there. And then we come to centre. And then, this is where the interesting one comes. So Kingsley Aguakun. So he's the centre, undrafted free agent out of Florida. Didn't really do much on him in the pre-draft process when it came to centres. He was good, but didn't really hit the radar compared to some of the others. For me, I thought he looked really good. And I was sort of having a back and forth with a few guys on Twitter who were, and rightly so, there was some pad issues with him, some pad level issues. Sometimes he was getting caught a little high, sometimes he was getting the leverage underneath him, which was causing him problems. But I think for the most part, he looked really good. First of all, the snapping was clean. There were no incidents with the snap whatsoever. So that's the first thing you want from your centre. Clean, concise snapping, no problems, no silly mistakes that way. Great. I thought against the run he looked really good, especially when he was helping with the double teams. They were really starting to pave some blocks out there, but I think the guys to the left of him were struggling a bit there. I loved the strength he used. His technique looked pretty good, I say, when he wasn't getting caught high. Like, I think Aguakun, he's not there yet. Certainly not on the 53, but he's one of those who you're now looking at next week and going, if he does that again, especially with the sheer lack of depth we have on our O-line right now, if some of these undrafted free agent guys come in and have 3 good games, take them, because, they've earned it. And I'd rather use those guys than these sort of journeymen we're bringing in who are not doing very good at all. Brent goes, Varkey recovered the fumble. Yes, he did, but I talked about the forced fumble. So Awashika forced it. Tom Kennedy helped, but Varkey got the recovery. But Awashika was the guy who punched it out. And for an offensive lineman to run down a cornerback is really, really impressive. Where was I? So yeah, Kingsley Aguakun, 34 snaps on the day. So he started. I thought he looked really clean. I thought he looked really tidy. Really good job from him there. I didn't think Brian Hudson was that bad either. He gave up a solitary quarterback hit, but for what it was, again, the centre play was really good, and he was clean when it came to his snapping as well. So Hank's done a good job there with them too. And then coming into the right guard position, we had 3 with Awashika against snaps. But Jake Burton, he got the most snaps there, 35. He is the guy we just bought in from the Michigan Panthers. So he's been playing UFL football. Looked like he'd been playing football recently again. Like, I know we struggled to create opportunities with the run and that, but when you sort of look at his game a bit more, you isolate a few of the one-on-ones. I had a look. I like what I saw from him. I thought the hands were really good. I thought the power was quite good with him. It's just sort of trying to really force open those rushing lanes he maybe struggled with a bit, but he held his own. And considering he's just coming from the UFL and it was his first game, he looked match tested. He looked ready. He looked like he played football more recently than all the others. So again, one I'll keep a little bit of an eye on. It might be a struggle more for him than Aguakun to make the roster, but thought he did okay. Nice, didn't really see much of, so can't comment there. And then the right tackle, so Colby played there, played over 40 snaps, predominantly him, apart from when Galvin was over there as well. Colby struggled. He gave up a few hits on the quarterback, struggled against the run as well. Again, year 2, William and Mary. This is the thing I with Broderick. Like, these guys have a lot of development to do, so I'm not going to be too harsh on them early because Colby only saw a few snaps last year. He is very much in his development period right now. He struggled a bit in this one. But again, it's a good New York D-line, even for their backup, so the level of opposition's quite high. Not unduly concerned right now, but hopefully you start to see a few things clean up as he goes through. Because he wasn't quite there just yet, but again, it's a while since he's played. So those are my thoughts there on the offensive line. So we need to get a lot better against the run. We've got to give the running backs something against the Chiefs. We need to give those guys an opportunity to be able to show what they're capable of, and hopefully these guys on the line can do it. But I go back to my worries about the depth here. It's like no one shone out properly. Like, no one had this game where you're like, yeah, they're going to go out and be it. And the guys who are showing out, they're undrafted guys. They're not guys with NFL experience. We're going to have a front 5, 4 of them over 30, I think. No, 3 of them over 30. And then behind, the actual NFL depth's going to be very thin. So I just do have I have worries about it at the minute. Obviously, we might get someone in. We've already gone and got Jamarco Jones in, who is NFL experienced, so maybe we'll see a few more of those. But we do need to see a bit more from the line next week, for sure. Flipping the script. Now, we'll go on to the defensive line. And, it's been mentioned already, but I'll get on to it now. I do want to talk about Broderick first up. And I thought Broderick Martin was, I'm not going to say fantastic, I thought he was great in this game. He had a sack. It's getting credited to Nate Lynn, but it's a half sack. Basically, great swim move over the centre, shoots the gap between the left guard and the centre, forces the quarterback in to Nate Lynn's path, and they both take him down together. This was all about technique with Broderick. It's not stat loading. I don't care about nose tackles stat loading. They don't. It's all about their technique. How are they doing against the run? How are their arms looking? Can they engage? Can they disengage? Can they, when the opportunity gives to them, shoot the gap? Broderick did that for the sack. He shot the gap. There was another one. He shot the gap between the centre and the left guard again. The running back went in the other direction, but the way he managed to lever himself in between them so quickly, his get off looked a lot quicker than it has recently. That's probably down to him shedding a little bit of weight, adding a bit more mass. You could see it in his game. But the thing that really shone for me, obviously 2 pass breakups, great. If you're a good defensive tackle, or a lineman in general, if you know you're not going to make a play on the quarterback, if your rush has failed, stick your hands up in the air like you're appealing for offside. Get your hands in, get in the passing lanes, try and make plays on the ball instead of the quarterback. He had 2 pass breakups in this one, and you could see him. Every time he wasn't getting to the quarterback, he was looking at the quarterback's eyes, finding the passing lane, getting into it, hands up in the air, and that comes off with 2 really good pass breakups from him. Loved seeing that, but the thing I liked the most was his run defense. There were 2 examples I saw of him where he locked up with the centre when they were on running plays, and both times he disengaged, took the running back down as he was going past. It was the thing that I loved about Aleem McNeil coming out of college. He was so crisp and clean with his technique in terms of being able to grapple with someone, but also putting him into a position where when the running back was near, he didn't get stuck to them, he could disengage, and he was quick enough to go make the play on the running back. And there was another 2 of those from Broderick, and it was crisp, it was clean, his technique was flawless. I saw so much improvement from Broderick Martin in this one game than I did see last year. Is he the finished article? No. Like, there were plays where he was struggling with double teams, etc., but he played upwards of 40 snaps. It's a lot for a nose tackle in a game. So I'm not going to take that one on the chin from there. And he's still learning, as Dan said. There's still technique to be learnt, just trying to get everything together into a complete game, and you can see that. But like I just said with Colby, like on the offensive line, you're not quite seeing the technique with him there. You're not quite seeing the big level of development with him just yet, which is fine. Don't care. With Broderick, you are. That is the critical thing with him. And with DJ Reader not starting this season, or potentially not starting this season, you want to be able to trust that you can bring Broderick in to take some of those snaps and to come in and make an impression. And, one game, got to sort of put the clamps on a little bit here and make sure that we don't get too carried away, which I'm not. But I loved what I saw from Broderick Martin, and I think he's on the right path. He's in the right place. he's going in the right direction. I think he's going to see the field more this year, and I think you're going to see him making a few more plays. But I certainly like what I see against the run. Mike the Marine. So yeah, if you've got questions, if I miss them, I apologise. I'm just trying to make sure I get all my notes in and not make this too iggledy-piggledy. So just keep putting them in if I miss them. Mike asks, how do you weigh getting reps for development players to signing veterans for depth this season? We're in a Super Bowl year, right? It's very, very tough. We've got to have established depth going into this season, especially on the offensive line. Obviously, your guys you're protecting like Sorsdal, maybe a Guakun, guys like that. You don't want to interrupt them, but you want to have guys maybe a bit versatile along the line who you can bring into situations to help. I think, especially now, we are not the worst team in the NFL with Brad Holmes just here, and we can just throw in whoever we like because we're under no pressure whatsoever. We are in a window now, and we've just got to be very careful that we don't, like with Manu, I don't want to take Manu as a backup. I'm just going to be straight up honest right now. But at the same time, you've got to, because someone will take him. But I'm not comfy with having him there right now. I want a veteran in who's going to be able to come in and do a little bit of a better job right now whilst he develops. It's the problem. We've taken a lot of day 3 guys, and we've got to develop. This is the problem I said we had with the offensive line right months ago, when Sorsdal is a day 3 guy, right? He's still learning, he's still developing. Manu's a day 3 guy, he's going to be developing for years. Mahogany's a day 3 guy, and he's not even been at practice, he's been struggling. We've got a lot of young guys who need development time, who we can't really afford to let off the roster. But you've got 5 starting offensive linemen, you've got 3 guys like them, and if you take someone like Aguakun at centre, you've got 4 guys who are pure development projects. That's 9 offensive linemen on your books already. 9. How many are you willing to take into the season to ensure that you're going to be alright going through? What, you take about 9, 10, 11? I said from the start I'd be taking 11. I'd be taking as many as I can get my hands on. I want to keep my development guys in, but at the same time, I've got to understand the fact that we need a little bit more experience and a little bit more depth on the line. So you're absolutely right, Gunny. It's a tough question, that is. Especially when it comes to the more critical areas of the team. But obviously our team has been bolstered by the fact that we've been able to give so many reps to the young guys so early. Amon-Ra, Penne, Rodriguez, all these guys who've played a lot of snaps and developed quicker because they've got game time. But this team's got different aspirations now. We cannot just afford to throw all these guys in there and let them develop while we're not competing. So I think we do have to shift a little bit more to experience whilst trying to retain these guys as well, but it's very tough. Jeff goes, are we in a window or a doorway? I mean, we're in a corridor. Our chance for success in the Super Bowl is huge because we've got a young core. We've got an offensive line which is 4/5 lockdown long term. We have a corridor. We have 3, 4, 5 years where we can go and compete right now. Our cap is incredibly healthy, 44 million going into this year. We can go into the trade market, we can make a big acquisition, we can and not affect going forward. So our window is a corridor, it's huge. Getting back to the defensive line, others who impressed, I did mention Nate Lynn. I mean, it's just such a shame with Nate Lynn. He was the MVP essentially of this. A sack, 2 quarterback hits, 2 run stops. His pass rush arsenal was really surprising, the spin move he got for one of his sacks. He was like Aleem beautiful. I've not really seen him pull the spin move out before, but he was pulling all the tricks out. You saw bull rushes, you saw the spin, you saw the swim. Dude was trying incredibly hard, and the offensive line were having a very tough time picking up what he was going to do. And you could just tell he was one of those who was like, screw it, I've got an opportunity, I'm going to go hell for leather, I'm going to take it. And that injury was just absolutely brutal, because I'd be having a conversation about him making this roster now, but hoping we get to keep it. We'll get first dibs on him next year. We'll probably give him a futures contract again, and hopefully we'll try again this time next year. But it was such a shame for Nate there. But he wasn't the only young guy on the edge making an impression. Mitchell Agude looked pretty good. 2 quarterback pressures, 5 tackles, 3 run stops. He was shoring up the edge well. with guys like with Houston, who I love to death, but he's struggling a bit with his run defense on the edge there. Someone like Agude comes in and does that. They're putting themselves in conversation to potentially threaten him for the roster. I don't think Houston's under threat. I still think his pass rush ability is better than anyone else's, and you've got to keep him for that alone. But certainly Agude, now Lynn's out, guys like Agude are in the conversation because they're going to be the guys who are next up, who you're looking at. Can Mitchell Agude go out and do that again? He's probably going to get some increased reps as well, given how well he did. He played something more at the outside linebacker position, but we'll see. And Isaac Ukwu, mentioned by Dan. People were really interested about what was maybe going to come with him. He got a sack, couple quarterback pressures, couple of run stops as well. Another guy who set the edge and looked comfortable doing it, but was also really dangerous as a pass rusher. He flourished in both disciplines, and we've got a really interesting battle now at this defensive end room. Because I say, we've got the first few guys we're going to take, but I'm not certain about Davenport at all. Pascal, there's question marks to be had there. Houston, there's question marks to be had there. There is no limit to where some of these young guys could go if they have a breakout preseason and then start doing it in season as well. Like, it could be quite far up the depth chart when all is said and done. So, I mean, I'm very happy that there's competition here, because it's one of those where you do look at it and you're a bit, Commission's out. Some of the guys aren't doing too well. Most of them are injury prone. We really need to see a scrap here to fill out the depth chart there. So, yeah, Agude, Ukwu looked really good. Broderick Martin looked good. I mean, Mekhi Wingo had his moments. Like, he had a horrendous play for the. He was at fault for the first touchdown. He was too busy trying to hang on to his blocker, the guy who was blocking, and completely missed the fact that the running back was right behind him with the ball. Always as a lineman, locate the ball before you make your play. But outside of that, he showed some good pass rush moves. He got a little bit of penetration in there, a couple of pressures. Like, the D-line looked good. Terrell Williams, early returns looked really good with him. These guys were hungry. They made some good plays. And, it just looks a really competitive room. So, got to give your hats off to the D-line there. Linebackers, I didn't note too much here at this point. Malik Jefferson did look good. He had 26 snaps. Of course, he had the huge tackle for loss that everyone was sort of raving about. Like, he was so quick. Like, the screen pass, soon as it's in the running back's hands or the receiver's hands, can't remember which, he was on him, threw him down, big tackle for loss, impressive play, good play recognition from the linebacker there in a room that I think it's pretty much showed, and we've got 5 guys in there. I think it's going to be tough to break our linebacker rotation. Rodrigo's in there, Barnes is in there, Anzalone's in there, Campbell's in there, Reeves-Mabin's in there. I think they're 5 untouchables. So I think they're going to struggle. But Malik Jefferson, he's got NFL experience. He's putting his name forward. I enjoyed what I saw from him, and I thought Ben Neiman was pretty solid as well. I was on One Giant podcast last week talking with a guy over in New York who he mentioned Neiman by name to me as guys like, if we cut them, would they do well on their roster? And I said, well, if he does get cut from our roster, it's not because he's bad. I just think we're set there. We've got a lot of young, talented rookies at the position. We've got our leader there. We've got our special teams, do-it-all ace there in JRM. He's one of our best coverage linebackers as well. I just don't think we really need any additions there. So, but they showed out. These guys gave them something to think about. And if someone starts to slip, not perform so well, Jefferson and Neiman are probably going to be right there, biting at the heels. So, the linebackers were alright on the day. And also, Hogan Hatton. The long snapper was playing at linebacker. We thought they were joking about that when they talked about that in training, but I don't know. They saw a little something there. I think it's more just it's one of those, you have one of those ideas and you're like, yeah, this is a 1 in a million thing. It probably doesn't mean anything, but let's try anyhow, just for sake. They've probably seen something, but I don't think that's going to be a long thought out experiment there for them. And then the defensive backs. Now this is where it gets exciting, folks, right? How excited are we about the defensive back room this year? I am. And the depth is also starting to create issues here, because I think we're going to cut some players we really don't want to cut. Starting the safety room, Brandon Joseph looked damn good. 3 tackles on the day, run stop on the day, interception as well. Dan Campbell goes, we want you to play stronger in the box. He played stronger in the box. Me and Ryan on the college pod watched Brandon Joseph closely in his career. At Northwestern, he was a star and it never quite worked out at Notre Dame, but the talent was always there with him, and he looks like he's adjusted now, at least to camp pace, Lions pace. He's adjusted, he's had a year in the system, and he's certainly knocking on the door for a position. And at the safety room, like someone like CJ Moore, I don't know if CJ Moore's going to make it. I think guys like Brandon Joseph are snapping at the heels, and they're ready to get on this roster, as well as Lauren Strickland. He looked quite good as well, very hard hitting. I thought in his snaps, because he got about the same count as CJ Moore, like he's another hard hitting safety against the run. I know he's not really on the radar at the minute, but I was impressed by the little I saw of him. So, you know, the safety's snapping at the heels of some of these guys on the periphery on the safety room, which will drive up everybody's performance. And then, of course, we're talking corners, and already I'm having to eat all sorts of crow about Rakestraw. Target twice, gave up one reception, but didn't give up any yards. Very sticky in coverage, Ennis Rakestraw. Since the back end of practice, the week before last, since the week we played the Giants, Rakestraw he's just been on a tear. Like the dude, it just switched on one day. There's been interceptions, there's been forced fumbles, the coverage has been sticky. He's a man on a mission. He's a man who's, you know, he's just he's going crazy right now in the greatest sort of way possible. But he brings it into preseason. He shows out. He looks really good, and he's fighting for a starting spot now. Like I thought he'd be more of a rotation guy going into the year, and he'd work his way in towards the end of the year. But hey, he doesn't want to. He wants to start, and he might well do. But he's going to have competition because Amik Robertson, the other, who was, you know, he's fighting for that nickel spot. He's fighting for the same sort of spot that Rakestraw is. Amik Robertson was nothing short of terrific in this. Out of all the senior guys, he probably saw the most snaps of anybody. He was targeted twice, didn't give up a reception, had a pass breakup as well, and again, he was all over the field. Like, he was keeping up with some really pacey wide receivers in that Giants core, and they got nothing on him. Literally, the second the ball left his hands, he was jumping routes, making breakups, making it hard for the receiver to get anything done, and like, I'm super impressed with Amik. And you look at him, Branch, Rakestraw, all fighting it out for these nickel spots, inside spots. Like, the level of competition is just insane going into this year. And I think maybe if we're going to talk about starters playing in some of these games, the way some of these younger guys are showing out, you might have to. You might have to see if they can come in and do the same. Give this a real old fight going in towards the end of the end of the preseason to sort of establish a depth chart going forward. But for me, it's cloudy right now. I thought I knew how I wanted my first five to be. I'm now not so sure. But they were really good in there. Maurice Norris, he had an up and down day. It's a shame because he's done quite well in training with the Giants. Like, he had one really good stop against the run. He absolutely speared Tyrone Tracy and was like, yeah, that's the hard-hitting guy I want to see. He looked up for it. But then, of course, he got ruined by Eric Gray on that first touchdown run, broke his ankles, which seemed to just zap the confidence out of him, which was a shame. It was a bad play. He got caught out of position. He wasn't able to get himself right. Should have made the tackle. It happens, and unfortunately, that's part of the preseason. These plays can be fatal to you. But he made good plays as well. So I'm hoping Norris bounces back in training this week and they give him another go against the Chiefs, because we certainly saw something there with him. But I was really impressed. No passing touchdowns on the day, which was critical. You know, we've seen analysis of the coverage. The coverage was good. The corners and the safeties were working in lockstep together. We're not seeing it in so long. There was the famous one of the guy going, oh, Neighbours couldn't be more wide open if he tried. And everyone's like saying to him, no, watch the play. The safety's waiting. These guys are working in tandem together. Like Malik Neighbours shut down completely. Got nothing thrown his way because he got no room to throw it in, because the corners were sticky in coverage and the safeties were exactly where they needed to be. There's so many times in recent years we've seen blown coverages in our secondary because the safeties have gone a-wandering, or the corners have just not been able to keep up with pure speed or good technique or something like that. And we saw that evaporate the day. Like, that's been our Achilles heel, and again, it's one preseason game. Let's clamp the brakes, so we need to see it more regularly, but we saw it, which is the critical thing. And I just think there's such intense competition when it comes to that DB room right now that, you know, it's great for us. absolutely love it, and one that we've got to keep an eye on as far as the preseason goes. And then we talk about the kicker, give special teams some love in there. Jake Bates only got one kick, 53 yards out, and this is outside in Hurricane Debbie, or the remnants of Hurricane Debbie. It's not easy conditions to kick in. Broadway, right down Broadway. Could not have got it any better if he tried. The second that thing left his boot, you had no doubt that was going in. And after his wobbles last week, that one kick has given him confidence. You've seen him smacking 60-yard field goals in practice this week. He seems to be... Kicking's a confidence thing for a lot of guys. That one kick's given him a lot of confidence. I would like to have seen him get a few more kicks. I don't know about you guys. I know there are a few I know it's pre-season and you want to go for it on 4,000 and stuff, but I think with our kicking situation being as precarious as it is, I would like Dan to give him, if it's like a 4th and 6, 4th and 7, you're unlikely to get it. Send Bates out there, let him kick. The more he kicks and acclimatises, the better he's going to be. That's just a very minor complaint. But yeah, he's doing well. He looked good. And we're going to have to see in, week 2 now what goes on with that. So, in terms of players, I've tried to talk about the players who've done well in that. Did anyone trend down? I don't like to do this really in pre-season, but there's a few names I think that are just in trouble that we need to mention. Nate Sudfeld's done. If he plays on Saturday, it's because we can't get another quarterback in time, Hooker's injured, etc. That's the only way he's going to get on the field. So I think he's done now. Hooker's going to take QB2 and maybe it's going to be him off the roster altogether. Traquan Smith, I think he's done. 14 reps and nothing. Nada. The targets were spread around amongst everybody, even the lowliest of the low on our depth chart, and he got nothing. And he's done nothing in camp. There's been nothing said about him whatsoever. It's one of the biggest mysteries we're going to have at the end of this off-season. What happened to Traquan Smith? The Traquan Smith that was at the Saints and looked good in the NFL. But I think he's definitely done now. There's so many guys who've put themselves above him there. Maurice Alexander, his way onto the roster is his return ability. When you muff 2 returns, I know we didn't give them away, and I know it was raining and it was wet, but when you've got to make those. When you're on a roster bubble fight, you've got to defy the weather, you've got to defy everything else, and you've got to be able to make those plays. And thankfully for us, our team were very alert. Like I say, that first one from Gilmore was... Oh, I didn't even mention Stephen Gilmore. Right, one moment. Yeah, Alexander, I think he's in trouble. Deron Gilbert at linebacker looked terrible. His coverage was really bad. They were targeting him down the centre. The few big throws they did get him were at Gilbert, and he struggled there. And then Kindle Vildor, I think, struggled as well. There are young guys in this corner room who I think, the depth in there is strong now. And now you're looking for depth positions, and people are outperforming him. And he wasn't great in this one. So I think he was certainly trending down after that. The one I forgot to give love to, and I hate this, Stephen Gilmore at corner. So I've just talked about all these great corners we've got and that. Again, when I was talking with One Giant podcast the other week, when they were talking about players we potentially might cut who they would be interested in, he was the first name I mentioned, Stephen Gilmore. He spent last year, he's been on the practice squad, he's been, learning, developing, and towards the end of the year was banging on the door to come up to the roster. We've seen him make so many good plays in practice. We've constantly heard good things about him. He's had a good off-season for the most part. I think his training camps have been pretty good, especially early on. Maybe it petered out a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but he's still been playing well. I mean, in this one, he got targeted once. People said he grabbed on that. He didn't. But it was an incompletion. I thought it was pretty good coverage. Maybe it was a little tug, but certainly not DPI tug worthy. Had a run stop in there as well. He had the fumble recovery. Now I know there was the one play on special teams where he completely overshot it and everyone laughed at him for, but his instinct, he's going out making plays. He wants to make this roster. He was first man on that ball when Alexander muffed it first up. He was on it so quick, and you've got to make plays like that if you want to stand out. He's doing everything he can to make this roster. Stephen Gilmore is. And I would be incredibly sad if we lost him, or we couldn't. I don't think we'll get him through to the practice squad. but I thought he looked good in this. I'd like to see him get a few more reps in the next one if we're going to sort of tone it down with Rakestraw and Meek and that, and let them get ready for the season and use more of the depth guys in games 2 and 3. I would like Gilmore to start, because I think he has the ability to make this roster and really surprise everybody. Make it as maybe guy 53 on there. But certainly my strength of feeling about him has strengthened after this week. I would be gutted to lose him, and any team who did get him and gave him a chance, maybe a rebuilding team who can put him in there and give him a few more snaps early on, that will be great for him. So Gilmore's the last guy I want to shout out to there. Right, so that's kind of week 1 done just again. Didn't go deep into the drives or anything. We don't care about the score, we just care about the players are doing. I saw a lot of positive things on there. O-line concerns me, but outside of that, I think there were a lot of questions I had answered. Running backs and receivers still got to do a little work on, but that wasn't them. Skill players were really put in a position to fail in this one, so hopefully we see improvement going into the Kansas City game. And speaking of the Kansas City game, oh, you're right, Debt Fan Man, hope you're well. I'll talk about Wingo again in a minute, I'll do your questions and everything, but going into week 2, Kansas City Chiefs were playing on Saturday at the more amicable time of 9 PM in the UK for us. It was midnight, the first game kicked off. I was watching Nate Sudfeld play football at 3 AM and questioning my life, but we do as Lions fans, we're dedicated. What questions do you all have now going into week 2 against the Chiefs? Put them in the comments, let's have a little look at it. I've got some questions that have arisen that I want answered that I wasn't sure about, that I didn't have before, etc. But is there anything going into week 2 where I need to see this, I need to see this player do that, etc. Let me know. But for me, the questions we've got going into the Kansas game now, obviously quarterback. It's been mentioned by several people. It's not Nate Sudfeld. Do we need to bring in a veteran backup at this point to give competition, or at least give guys a chance? Like everyone mentions, Tannehill been out there. Isn't that a laugh? One time people thought Tannehill was better than Goff, and now he'd be a third stringer behind him on a successful team. But yeah, Tannehill's out there. The rest are not really. I'm not going to lie, the list is a bit poor. Do we need to bring in a backup at quarterback? Yes, absolutely. Hooker's going to miss this week. I don't really want to send Hooker out there if he's recovering from a concussion. Like, the Chiefs play hard during the preseason. To crack their roster, you've got to be damn good, because they're multiple Super Bowl winners. You saw them play the other day. I thought they looked, defense had its moments. It's tough. I don't want him to get hit by one of their linebackers. So we need to bring in competition, certainly. Where does it come from? Does it come from the NFL scrap people? Does it come... I believe I saw Brent mention this in the chat earlier. Maybe a UFL guy, maybe someone with a point to prove. Now, the one that came to mind, and he mentioned Davius Richard. He is the North Carolina Central quarterback from last draft cycle out the HBCUs. He went undrafted. He got injured in the HBCU Legacy Bowl, which was a massive shame. He's a really good dual threat quarterback. He's going to go to the UFL. He's going to kill it, and he's going to get a chance on a roster next year. But do you sort of say to the Houston Roughnecks, well, actually, can we have first dibs at him, and he comes back to you as and when he's done? Bring in someone like Davius to have a go at this and see, because he'll be a young guy wanting to make plays, wanting to impress. With everyone's been talking about Adrian Martinez, and how good he's looked. Like, he's a young guy fighting for a spot, not some old clipboard holding NFL guy who's just kind of come to terms with the fact that he's never going to be good enough, which is what Sudfeld is. We want a bit of youth. We want. So do we go that way, or do we go with the experience? I'd bring in someone like Davius Richard if I could. I don't think Tannehill's going to come here as a trialist in camp trying to fight for a quarterback 3 spot. That's just not going to happen. It seems that they're set that Hendon Hooker's going to be QB2 now, so I think we've got to take that out the equation. He's not going to come here, play a practice squad game for us. And if he did, he wouldn't give it everything, would he? So no. I think I would go young, hungry backup for this week rather than experienced and lost his will type thing. But that's a question I've got going into this week, so we need to sort that quickly. Starters. So I got asked this by D-Man on Twitter, but a lot of you I've seen mention it in the comments as well. Do we play the starters or do we not play the starters? Now, most of the starters didn't see action. Certainly on offense, barely anybody saw the field this week who would. Defense did, but there's rookies on there, like positional battles at corner, Amik, Rakestraw. We need to figure out the pecking order for those, so you see those. But everybody's number one concern is starter goes down injured for the season, we're done. Let me just say to you, players get injured all the time. Look at our injury list. Kamish is done for the year. Muti is done for the year. You know, Emmanuel Mosley is pretty much done for the year. They've not seen a snap of preseason football. They've all been injured in training. Like, it doesn't matter if it's in a training game, a practice, you know, a preseason game, in a training session. The fact is, guys can get injured at any given time. And as Dan repeatedly says, again and again and again, and it can't be understated enough, if you go into the season undercooked, if your body is not ready to take hits, if your body is ill prepared for, especially the trench guys, the trench warfare you're going to come under every single play, that increases your odds of getting hurt. Now, I know we say the joint practices are simulations for this, etc., and they are to a degree, but they're simulations. And to be fair, we spent half of the Giants' practices fighting and not training, so I don't know how much we take out of this, but I do think there is a point where you have to play your starters just a little bit because you need to get them up and ready. Now, is preseason one the right one? Maybe not, but I know people like to ramp them up as they go through. Would I like to see the offense this week maybe for a set or two? I think I would. Like last year, we saw them, game one, they had one drive, went and scored a touchdown, and that was pretty much it, but at least it got them out there, it got them in sync, gave them a little bit of game time, and, you know, for the receivers and that, we want to see how, like, wide receiver 3 or 4, who we're going to put out there with our guys. You know, we want to give some of our depth players the opportunity to play in this lineup and see how they do, because we might need them to start come day one. So my overall opinion is I don't want to see them for long, but I do agree with Dan in that you need to get their bodies ready for it. And, you know, there's no guarantees in football. No guarantees at all. Like, we could lose somebody to practice this week. Is that the same as playing them in a preseason game? You've got to practice in pads. You've got to, you know, we practice in pads more than most other teams do. But we are also one of the toughest, hardest to beat teams in the NFL, and that is the reason why we go a little bit further than other teams do. So I would like to see the starters for a bit. I would. But not much. Just a, you know, one drive, maybe 2 drives, depending on how it goes. Pull them. Done. Job done. Don't worry about it. Send out the guys afterwards to do. But I do think there is I do think there is certainly benefit in doing it. Let's just have a look through any other questions in there. Moosey goes, is Tannehill Alliance fit? Refused to help Levis, so what would he do with Hendon? Yeah, he's not going to come here to fight for QB3. Tannehill will still have aspirations of being a starting quarterback in the NFL. He won't be, but he will at least want to give himself an opportunity. He won't come here to certainly be QB3. They will not give him Hendon Hooker snaps, because Hendon Hooker needs Hendon Hooker snaps. Sounds stupid, but he needs all the snaps that are going to be assigned to him because he's our rookie, he's getting older, and we need him to learn as quick as possible. So I just don't see him being a good scheme fit here. So go younger. Brent agrees with me as always. Me and Brent are like twins. We agree on so much. Bring in a young goal for now. Keitho goes, call Teddy. See if you... That might be... I don't know if you can do that. Can you bring him out of retirement to just be a practice squad quarterback for a game? I mean, that would be ideal. But at the same time, I'm not sure. He's probably not been practicing. He's probably not been training. He's probably out, what they call out of NFL shape by now. So I'm not sure he'd be able to do that there. Brent goes, Mosley will probably be back later in the season, I think. Brent, the thing with Mosley, and I'll say this now, physically he might be back by the end of the season, etc. But you're coming off double ACLs and a pec tear. He's not played a game of football now in what will be over 3 years. And every time he ramps up to get into the first team, he played a game last year, played 2 reps, hurt, ramping it up in training this year, getting to the real business end of training where you've got to be at your hardest, and his body's broken down again. It's not his fault. I've got no against Mosley. But if you're going to tell me he's coming back in late December, am I going to keep a roster spot for him? No. because he's going to be coming back after 3 years of not playing football, and we're going to ask him to go into the playoffs and guard some of the best receivers in the NFL, and that just, as much as I want to believe there's a Cinderella story in there, I just think this one is one too many for him. So I just wouldn't try. It's unfortunate, but unfortunately it's just the way it is. We've done this too many times in the past. Julian Okwara, Deshaun Hand, Kerryon Johnson, we've just persisted and persisted and persisted in the face of mounting evidence that the body's just never going to be able to get back to where it was. And unfortunately, for Mosley, I think that's where we're at now. So it's a tough one there as far as that goes. Other questions for Kansas. So I've talked about this a little bit. The level of offensive line concern. Am I concerned about it? D-Man asked me that on Twitter as well. Yeah, I'm just going to be blunt. I'm worried. I don't see right now where the established depth is. Losing Muti, huge, because he's played NFL football and played well and looked decent while he was here. Gone. Connor Galvin, one of the emerging stars we've got, who's already been here a year, is integrated into our system. Hank knows him well. Hank's obviously been teaching him very well because he looked great the other day. Gone. Our list of options runs thin. Again, Sorsdal, Manu, works in progress. Can they carry a heavy workload on the line this year? Sorsdal, maybe. Manu, definitely not. We've got Awashika on the interior, and then what do we have? Boetga looked terrible the other day, and then we've just kind of got a load of nomads in there at this point. And then we're taking UDFAs with us. Like I say, Aguakun, if he carries on, will deserve his roster spot, but he will be a UDFA who's not taken an NFL snap before. So I know the level of O-line is not great. Backup O-line is not great in the NFL, as Matt keeps telling me, and I understand this, but I don't even think we're reaching basic right now. And basic should be a want. We should want to have a basic depth at offensive line that can do basic tasks and basic fill-in for this team, and I just don't think we have it right now. So I'm worried, and we need to bring in more bodies. We need to keep going at this thing, and we need to try and establish some depth. Because, like I say, we're potentially taking 3 or 4 day 3 UDFAs with us on the roster this year. With 5 O-line guys, that's already 9 you're at, and you've got no established depth whatsoever on that roster, and you're already at 9. So that is my concern with the O-line this year. And again, something I'm looking at against Kansas, is anyone really going to stand out and really, stick their hand up and go, I'm it. I am going to be the guy who does it. Brent goes, I'll repeat my question. Do we keep 10 OL so we continue the development of our young guys? We keep 11. 10, 11. I am honestly going to go very high on the O-line this year. I said it from day one. I'm not taking 9. Because then that means, if you are taking 9, one of Manu, Sorsdal, Mahogany, and whoever you're going to play as a backup centre, you've got to cut. So then you're just going to go with 3 completely, really untested guys who've not played before. No, you're not. I expect to go 10 or 11, or we're going to be losing some of our draft picks. Like, Mahogany will be in trouble now because of the amount of camp that he's missed, but he's going to be too talented to miss another team. So you've got to weigh that risk-reward of letting him go now against the immediate need for depth on this team. So it's really tough. But I'm just, like I said, I've always been concerned about the hierarchy of our offensive line. 5 starters, loads of young day 3 guys who are not quite ready or there yet. What's in the middle? Awashika, as of now. And then do we keep Skip? I mean, obviously we keep Skip. I love Skip, but then you've got to have another offensive lineman. So, yeah, I'm really concerned. And, I'm trying not to be negative. I'm trying to be realistic here. I want our team to win the Super Bowl, so I want us to have the depth to go and win it. Because right now I'm worried about what's going to happen if we have an injury or 2. Mike the Marine goes, question, former Green Bay offensive tackle David Bakhtiari. I mean, Bact would be it's weird. He's not been picked up right, so I guess he's still got major injury concerns, but surely if you bring him in for camp for a couple of games, see how he's doing. Bact he'd be solid NFL backup. You would feel comfortable bringing him in if he's fully healthy, but his is the injury concerns. That knee is it wrecked? Because if the knee's gone, then his ability as a tackle in the NFL is gone. So I can't really say more until I know his injury state, but the fact that a multiple All-Pro like him is still on the market would make me believe his injuries are either insurmountable or too many question marks at this stage of the season. Any other questions in there? Just knocking around. Right, so other questions. Bates. So this is another one going into Kansas. Does Jake Bates need competition now that Badgley's hurt? Obviously, we bought Andre Schmidt in, but we've heard nothing about him. But are you, as fans, comfortable now giving this to Bates? He got his one kick against the Giants. He's been nailing them in during practice all week. Are you ready to crown him as the guy yet from what you've seen? Or do you still want to put him in a situation where he's fighting for his roster spot? Do you really want to keep putting the pressure on him there? Like, my opinion is you've still got to challenge him. I still think if there are kickers out there, because Harrison Mevis was just let go by the Panthers, like, I would 100% bring Harrison Mevis in at least to try out and give a bit of competition. Like, Bates looks good, don't get me wrong, but I think with kickers, you have to test them as much as physically possible before the season starts. Like I say, his only barrier is, can he deal with it mentally in the NFL in front of 60,000 fans? Now, he did very well in the outside against the Giants. Like, first test passed, but I think you've got to keep testing him going forward. So, you know, I'm not ready to crown just yet, but I think he's certainly in the front runner seat for it. And I wouldn't just say to him now, like, it's yours. But that's still a question I've got. Are we going to bring in more kickers, etc.? Like, you know, let's keep that battle going there. Keitho says, I think we need another kicker for competition. I agree. More competition, good competition, but Bates certainly has the front track for this now, and someone's going to have to try really hard to get that off of him. Lisa, hang on, I just saw the question and it vanished. Lisa asks, was taking Rakestraw in the second worth losing out on an OL capable backup? This is the question, right? But again, I was talking about a roster construction the other day on the Giants podcast, and it's, you can only sort so many problems. You can't sort every single problem on an NFL roster in an off-season. Like, our secondary needed work doing to it, and even with Davis and Amit coming, you know, they're both one-year guys currently, and we don't know whether they're going to work as vets. Now, was I a bit surprised they did 2 cornerbacks early? Yes. Do I understand why they did it? Absolutely, because now you're starting to see it pay off. You see the levels of competition with Amit, Branch, Rakestraw fighting over the nickel, and everyone's raising their game. I can understand why they did it. Was it a missed opportunity to go for O-line depth? Yes. I wanted them to take a day 2 guy, on the O-line this year to give us someone who would be immediately more ready to step in if need be, and you all know who it was. But I can see why they did what they did. And I'm not going to question Brad, ever. Brad Holmes is a genius. I'm a bald idiot on the internet, so, you know, there's that. But we did miss an opportunity, but not with the Rakestraw pick, I don't think. Like, you know, we were messing around with all the picks for Manu and Varkey and all that. I'd have packaged them picks together to go higher. That's where I'd have gone for a better O-lineman if I could have. But I think Mahogany was good value as well. If Mahogany hadn't got hurt, we might be having a very different conversation right now. So certainly maybe a missed opportunity, but again, can't fix all the problems in one. The other, I think that was all the questions I had in terms of Kansas. Obviously, there's still depth parts, running backs, wide receivers, edges, but you know, they're the same questions I had going into the Giants game. There are a couple of new ones now, but we did answer a lot as well, so quite happy, really. I know it wasn't the best performance in terms of the score, but I think we learned a lot, and Dan was right when he said a lot was learned in that game. Mike goes, if Lions take 10 O-linemen, then we can only have 46 players on game day. Maybe the 8-9, then we're allowed 48 players. I mean, this is your problem, right? I guess, and this is the problem I've had with the O-line, and again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record here, but when you've got 5 starters and then the depth behind them are all day 3 guys who are not quite ready, this is the problem you're going to have. It's somewhere along the line, you're either going to trust these guys, like we're going to trust Sorsdal as an out-and-out, I'm going to plug and play you the second someone's injured and play you a full game and hope you're good. straight away type. And then with Manu, I don't like being that guy. Manu, Mahogany, if these guys are going to make the roster, then you've got to take some experience along with it, unless they are supremely confident these guys can come in for games and fix us, or whether they're just saying, you know what, we'll keep the war chest in reserve, we'll pray that the front five stay healthy, and if there's an injury, we've got $43 million, we'll go and trade for somebody, we'll bring some established depth in, we'll do some... Maybe that's the way they're going to look at it. Go, we'll run the risk, and if not, we've got the money and the draft capital to fix it quicker than usual. But yeah, that's the problem I've just had all along. You'll take Awashika as 6. You would assume, will they let Skipper go? They might let Skipper go through to the practice squad, but do they think they can risk people getting through to the practice squad? That's the only way you can solve this. But again, I'm just not seeing any experienced depth across the line. Galvin's gone. Mooty's gone. Who else have we got at this moment in time who's going to fight for serious reps on the offensive line if a starter goes down injured? It's literally Awashika. Maybe Sorsdal. So I'm not going to go over this there, but I do think we need to take more O-linemen. Just me. But maybe they don't see it that way. But that's my concern, and, you can disagree. You probably do. But, as long as you can understand my thinking regarding that. All these... Keitho goes, all the first-round quarterbacks are looking good. Wiggins, Ball, the other... Yeah, they are. Hell of a cornerback class this was. Going to be great. The next cornerback class is going to be generational, though. I'll tell you that. There are 4 or 5 guys who are probably going to be better than these guys from day one. They're great. Keitho goes, if we go up to 18 regular season games, the 53-man roster needs to go up. Yes, it does. Or, now we've got increased practice squads. You can take, 15, 16 guys on your practice squads? Practice squads are getting really big. I just think you should be able to protect more players on there. If you want to protect some of your day 3 draft picks because you want to keep them, but you can't really put them on your roster right now, I think you should be allowed to do that. But, again, that's just how I think. Sorsdal didn't look good at all. No, he didn't, but again... This is like the whole Broderick thing. People getting on Broderick's back because year 1 he didn't look great, etc. He's come from William and Mary. He's played FCS football his entire career. The level that he's playing against now is just... It's astronomical. The gap you've got to make that... It's alright being big and tall and scary like him in the FCS, but when you come to the NFL, you've got to have the brains as well. And it takes time for a lineman to develop. We're starting to see Broderick come out in year 2, but Broderick was a round 3 pick who had a more immediate upside. Colby is a round 5 pick. That's proper day 3 at this point. So, no, he didn't look good, but I'm not concerned yet. I'm really not. He's definitely going to be one of those where year 3 you're looking at him really threatening everything. Hopefully this year he can get some good reps in relief, etc., and bring it along, but I'm not worried about him there. Broderick came from... Yeah, I never said he didn't. I said Colby was an FCS guy. Broderick had... Right, so let me tell you, Broderick Martin's career, he had 3 years in the FCS. He had 1 year at Kentucky in the CUSA. The CUSA is the weakest group of 5 conference there is. It is the next thing up from the FCS. Even Broderick's level of opposition was poor. So he may as well have come from the FCS. That's why I said last year, you're just not going to see him make an impact year 1. So much to learn coming up to the NFL and doing it, but working against Frank, working against Jonah, working against, Graham, you see what it's done to Aleem. Aleem looks amazing. And he was, same similar pick, but he played in the Power 5. He played at NC State. He played against much better opposition. It's taken him 3 years to really reach the apex of what he's capable of. So for Broderick, it's going to take 3-4 years till he reaches the apex of what he can become. But you drafted him as a project, and if you get what you expect when it's done, that round 3 pick will be more than worthy of the value for him. Colby Sorsdal was William and Mary. I was talking about Colby. Colby Sorsdal is William and Mary. If I've made a faux pas there, then I apologise. But Colby was William and Mary. Broderick was Western Kentucky. But he did play at North Alabama for 3 years, which is FCS, so might be why I got a little confused. If anyone else has got any other questions you want to ask me before I get out of here, then great. I've sort of given my thoughts on the first game and on the second one. I I know one person, it gets a little bit monotone just listening to them for an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody who's been here in the building. If I've missed any questions, just re-put them back in. I've not deliberately ignored you. I've just tried to make sure the show has gone as planned and that I've not missed anything out. It's difficult to do that when I can't take a break when someone else is speaking. I'll go back and have a little look through there. Have I missed anything there? Independent Aquaman goes, with your accent, every time you say two of, I hear tour. Tour. Oh yeah. I'm up the north. That's like a dialect thing up here. You won't hear that from down south. Matt would say it properly, but that's quite funny. I can't now unhear that. Every time I say tour, oh God, I'm going to think of that. Thank you for that, Independent Aquaman. I appreciate that. But hey, my accent is I have a northern accent. I am proud of my northern accent. That's where we're at. Not one of these Scousers or one of these Londoners who speak really weird. You know, we're very prim and proper from where we come from. I missed Fan Man's one from earlier. Question for week 2: is Terrian again the only starter who plays? No, I think we see more starters play this week. I would like to see Terrian play though. Just like anybody, he's a rookie. I just want him to get his feet wet on the field and just see a few snaps first. Like Kansas City, even their backup receiver, like the Giants receiver core they put out was good. Like it was worth him going up against the likes of Terry and Arnold. That will give him lots of vital information to work with. I'm not sure what the Chiefs' sitch is like, but I would still give him game time so he knows. So he dips his toes in, you know, because you just don't want him to go in cold into the season. So Terry on will start for sure. I mean, will Carlton? I don't think Carlton Davis probably will, but on the offensive side of the ball, I maybe would like to, like, no running backs, none of the top receivers, but maybe put the O-line in there for a drive 2. I know it's a risk, but again, like I've said, any of those O-linemen can get injured any day. And maybe, hell, you can even stick Colby, because Zeitler won't play. Stick Colby in, stick someone in with that first 5 to give them a little bit of experience as well, to give the running backs a chance to make an impression, and let the receivers make an impression, because all this impacts on our depth spots. If the quarterback play is not good, we can't evaluate our receivers as good. If the O-line play is not as good, we can't evaluate our running backs as good. And we need to be able to evaluate these positions, so we've got to strike a balance where we give these depth guys an opportunity to succeed rather than just put them in a position to fail and not give them a realistic chance of winning. So yeah, I do want to see Arnold out there again, but I do want to see more on the offense in terms of out, especially that line. I know that'll get me a lot of hate and I apologise, but that's just how I feel. Yeah, Lisa, that's my problem. Go back to the O-line. Hank's great coach, but he's not developed a day 3 player. He's not. Argue back against me. As much as I love Hank to death, and I think he's the best thing since sliced bread, and I want to keep him here forever. But his true mastery is going to be getting these day 3 guys into positions to be our quality depth. That's why we've drafted Sorsdal. That's why we've drafted Manu, to be quality depth for this team. And Mahogany, he's going to be quality depth for this team. And we need to start seeing the returns on that eventually. We need to start seeing some quality depth come through. As of yet, it's not worked. So that's the problem I have. So yeah, Wingo, second worst PFF grade. YouTube talent called him elite talent. What's the deal? This is the problem I have with PFF. Everybody knows who watches this podcast. Ever since we started really doing this properly, I don't like PFF. People look at PFF grades and then they create a narrative out of it without ever seeing the player play a snap. Because, like I said, you know, Broderick Martin got sacked the other day. They don't have him down as having a sack, but he damn well did have a sack. Manu had 1 quarterback hit given up, but he damn well gave up 2 sacks the other day. These way they grade them, you've got to watch with your eyes. PFF's good for some stuff, like the basic, how many snaps did they play, the snap alignments, all that sort of pain in the arse stuff you don't want to try and find out yourself because it just takes forever. But when it comes to their grades, I just have no respect for PFF grades at all. It's like I've got very little respect for RAS, because we get into RAS arguments around draft time, but I just think people put too much stock in them. Wingo, like, I've been critical of the Wingo pick. I wanted Christian Boyd instead, and I was really, like, that big play I keep mentioning, the first touchdown run from Eric Gray, Wingo was too focused on holding the block on the guy he's meant to be blocking. He didn't see the running back run right behind him in a big ass open gap that he should have been guarding, but he was too interested in making the block. As a lineman, especially a defensive tackle, ball first. Where's the ball? Make your block, but what makes you truly good is finding where the ball is and being able to make a play on it. Even just, if he's blocking, a little turn of the head, like he could have disengaged straight away because he's just doing a part of a double team block. Straight off, that touchdown run never happens, and that's going to cost you in the NFL. Little rookie mistakes like that. So that I had problems with, but for the most part, I thought he was decent. He had some good penetration. He saw more. Like, his pass rush arsenal is not great. It wasn't when we did the tape review on him, but he showed more with his hands. Like, Terrell Williams is, like, you can see the technique on every single player. Every single player has a bigger pass rush arsenal than when he got here. And that is very noticeable. His technique was good. He shot some gaps. I thought he looked alright for the most part. I watched that review of him and I thought, yeah, they said a lot of things I agree with. I do think there were some boneheaded plays from him, but hell, he's a 6th round rookie. He's going to make boneheaded plays. He certainly didn't deserve, what was it, a 28 grade on PFF. Like, that's just cruel. I don't know what they were marking him so badly on. I thought his tackling was good, his technique was good. He made one boneheaded play on a touchdown run. That was it. So I agree. I think that's bogus, and that's why I don't like PFF, and that's why I trust my own eyes when it comes to scouting and stuff like that, because more and less, trust yourself, trust what you see, don't trust PFF grades. Lisa goes, I want Christian Boyd as well. Yeah, I get very... That's the thing I love. I will never question a Brad Holmes pick. I will have my opinion on it, because I get so heavily invested in watching college players, and I get my favourites, and we never draft them, and I get upset, but... I'll never, ever question Brad. If he thinks Wingo's better than Boyd, fine, don't care. But I think Boyd's going to be a monster. But yeah, it was bad. So Wingo was good. Wingo was all right. For his first performance, Debt Fan Man, Wingo was good. And he just made some rookie mistakes that rookies make. You can't judge him too harshly for that. So I wouldn't read too much into it. He was good. Like, he's just going to get better. He's in a very competitive DT room with Levi coming through. We're going to have to take 5 DTs now, really. So, interesting with that one. But, yeah, I thought Wingo did all right there. Moosey goes, read somewhere Broderick has one of the worst RAS scores in many years. Some positions it doesn't matter, though. DTs, again, this is with RAS. I don't care. Why do I want an athletic DT, who's an athletic freak? I want a guy who's technically gifted. I want a guy who can get through blocks, who can fight double teams, who can, make plays in the backfield. I don't want a super athlete there. That's where you see in college, a lot of college teams put their super athletes at nose tackle or D tackle. It's not because they're good there, it's just they think, oh, he's a very athletic guy, he'll make plays, and they always struggle. Like Levi had that problem. Washington played Levi as a nose tackle for the vast majority of his career because he had a supreme RAS when he came out. It doesn't mean he's any good there. The second they moved him to 3-tech and he became a disruptive pass rusher, the world opened up for him. The world was his oyster. He looked fantastic and he was great there. And it put him a little bit more towards the edge, but you just stuck him in at nose. The athleticism meant jack. With Broderick and guys like that, the athleticism means jack. You could see, he was an athletic kid in college. There was one play in the Western Kentucky game we watched. He ran sideline to sideline with a quarterback. And he kept pace with him. The dude's got it there. He's got the motor if and when he wants to. And you saw the other day, he had, he's able to shoot the gap quick. He's not a supreme athlete, but he's got everything he needs to be a good defensive tackle. The technique's coming. The strength's coming. The motor's there. The willingness is there. So, again, it's not that I don't respect RAS. It's just I think people see a RAS score and then they make a blank assumption about a player by his RAS score, and they don't even stop to look at his film. They're just like, oh, he's not an athlete, he'll never be any good. It's balderdash, as we say over here in the UK. How dare I talk about Kent like that? I'm sorry. Kent is an incredibly hard worker, don't get me wrong. What he's done with RAS is unbelievable. I just think it's gone too far one way. Whereas using it as a useful tool in the middle, and then one way you've got not using it, and one way there's looking at it as a godlike entity where there's no mistakes with it and there could be no room for error. And just too many people worship it to the point where they've stopped watching tape and they've stopped looking for the things that matter. Like, I'm always a technique over an athlete guy, because those technical guys are the ones who will get it done. The athletes, just a lot of them flame out because, yeah, they're athletic, they're gifted, they got motors, but they just get shut down in college. Speed means nothing if you don't know how to use it. It's the same with receivers. I hate 4-2, 4-3 running receivers who have no idea of technique, who have no idea of route running, because just speed enough is not enough to win. They've got to have good hands, they've got to have good knowledge of the route tree, they've got to set DBs up well to create the separation. You know, man go fast doesn't mean man get ball. So, yeah. I'm not trying to rag on Ken, I'm just trying to... I push back at those who treat RAS like a Bible. That's all. So, there we go. Stephen Biffett goes, with his build, he is going to have to be a gap penetrator against the run too, so he has to still learn how to get the right gap. If we're talking... Who are we talking about here? Wingo or Martin? We saw several instances of Martin gap rushing the other day, which is fine. Wingo, I think he'll be fine gap rushing. Wingo's a lot more athletic. If he gets his technique right, he can gap rush very well. It's just his pass rush arsenal was what held him back in college. If he gets the technique good, he's going to be just fine. If there's any other questions anyone wants to ask me before I get out of here, then just put them in the chat now. It's been great. I didn't think I'd even go an hour today, but you've all been great. I appreciate having you all in the building as always. As I say, I love doing this. That's why I didn't want to miss the show this week, because I miss chatting with you all too much to not be able to do this. So I don't know if there's been anyone in Twitch this evening. Let me just see if I can do this. The stream has run perfect so far, so let me just get into Twitch. If I've missed anyone in Twitch this evening, I'm really sorry, but I have to have only a few applications open on my computer so I don't overload the memory and crash the stream. So I'm hoping that no one's really asked much this evening while I've been here. It still says it's the college pod. No, I haven't. We're all good. Let's just get out of there then. I will just take a bit of time to tell you about our shows coming up. Oh, hello. That better not be true. Is that true, Moosey? Let me just get in. Let's see if we've got some breaking news here. I'm not in. Oh my. Right, so we do have some breaking news which came out 19 minutes ago, which I didn't look at. Sorry, Ash, I apologise. If Ash was here, we'd have known right away. So we've waived injured wide receiver Antoine Green. Antoine Green is gone. That is such a shame. I'm gutted about that. Hopefully he will revert to practice squad and we can keep him there. We've released Ike Boetka. That is no surprise. Probably called that one earlier. That's fine. We've signed quarterback Jake Fromm and linebacker Ty Summers. So Jake Fromm, he is the old Fresno State quarterback, if I remember rightly? Is that where he was at school? In college? Or am I... No, he was the Georgia quarterback. Sorry, I can't remember who I'm getting him mixed up with. So most recently with the Washington Commanders. So right, there you go. Jake Fromm is your quarterback going into this week. I like that. I think he will be a good option for us going into... I'd start Jake Fromm over Nate Sudfeld any day. See what he's got. Oh yeah, Kent's lovely, Lost Ocean. We've had him on the show before. He's great. Again, it sounds really mean when I talk about Raz the way I'm trying to push back on it. I want to give love to players who don't fit the system. I'm all about the outcast, the small school guy, etc. But yeah, Jake Fromm is going to be in at quarterback, so that's interesting. We'll probably see him play on Saturday. Boetka's gone. That's fine. Don't really care for that one. Antoine Green, that's a shame. I like Antoine Green. I hope he stays on the practice squad. He probably will get through to the practice squad. He's not seen much game time with us. I don't think anyone else is going to be tempted enough to waste the spot on him just yet. I don't know what the injury is. We'll have to take a look at that there. Ty Summers comes in at linebacker. We're just trading through the linebackers at the moment. I don't think any one of them are going to break that, so we're fine there. And then So yeah, Antoine Green waived, injured, Boetga released, Jake Fromm and Ty Summers signed, and yeah, we've got the Jake from State Farm jokes coming up there. That's yeah. Oh, Green had his concussion, didn't he? Of course he did. Wow, that must be a bad one, because they said he had a neck concussion. I don't know if there's any doctors out there, but I don't know the difference between a neck concussion and a regular. I'm assuming a neck concussion is trauma from the neck, because it was a nasty tackle that he took. I don't know whether that's a level of severity above a regular concussion, but that's a big loss there in terms of Antoine Green. I was hoping he would make the roster. Stephen goes, what are Varkey's chances of unseating Reynolds at running back 3? One of them would be 3A, one of them will be 3B. This team love Craig Reynolds too much. I think Craig Reynolds is a cult figure here, but of course we know Craig Reynolds is the pass protector, the run blocker, the guy who'll go in there and lay everything out for him, and he's got that on Varkey. Varkey's not the tallest and the strong, and he's a rookie at the minute, so pass protection's probably not really going to be his thing. I think Reynolds keeps 3. I think Varkey's really got his hold on 4, though. Lisa goes, Fromm is a capable quarterback 2. Yes, he is. Get that entirely. Stephen goes, since Green is injured as well, is it just the Lions being creative to re-sign him? Yeah, I do. I think you'll hear re-sign, reverted to practice squad, or when the time comes, they will put him on the practice, or they'll put him through waivers to get him to the practice squad. I fully expect Antoine Green to be on this roster, or not on this roster, on this team come week 1, but it will be on the practice squad where they can carry on developing him, and if no one emerges at depth receiver when he's fully healthy, he'll probably get reactivated again, and whoever's holding the wide receiver 5-6 position will be sent down to the practice squad through waivers. There are some seriously wide receiver needy teams. Yeah, someone might take a flyer on it. He's a second year player, so the thing is, second year day 3 players, they've not begun to scratch potential yet. Everyone's going to want him for the same reason, that you could still get a really good player out of them. And we're not cutting him because he's been bad. We're cutting him because he's injured. There's a big difference there. So people are going to look at Detroit now. The players we draft, the success rate we have drafting players, they'll treat even our cast-offs with more respect now. Like, they'll go, right, well, there's a reason they drafted him. Let's get him in. Have a look at why they drafted him, because they are an organisation we respect at searching out talent and finding it. So, yeah. Green he might do, but if he's injured, I don't think he will. Stephen goes, neck is bad, it means he may not be able to play for a while. I kind of figured that. If it is a neck trauma and it's anything up here, then he might be done. Can they just waive him since he's injured? This is what this is. It is an injury waive. It's not a cut. It's an injury waived. So it'll be with a designation, etc. Yeah, they've probably told Green what's going on. They probably just said to him, look, you're hurt. You might be out for the rest of pre-season. We need that spot, to bring in another receiver, have a bit more competition, etc. And, you'll be there. So yeah. Breaking news there to end today's stream, really. Like I say, anything else you want to quickly ask before I get out of here? Great. Let me just go through the shows we've got upcoming with you. So Matt is on holiday all this week. So I think back next Monday, we're back to normal. If not, I'll do another one of these. Hopefully I'll have someone with me. So we'll be back Monday, as always. And my stream has held up very well, so I'm very happy about that. I think because I've written everything down on paper and I've not got tons of apps open on my computer, that's probably why it's helped. The College Football Podcast will be back this week. I will probably record it and then premiere it. I do apologise, but I don't like to do live streams that cut out halfway through. That's worse than doing a pre-recorded show. We should be finishing off our Sunbelt East preview. I'm sorry it's taken me a few weeks, but these things take me forever, and time and all that stuff. So we'll do that show Wednesday, and then, as I say, I'm hoping on the weekend, I don't know, he's not got back to me yet, but our good friend Coach Gerald Huggins hopefully is coming back on the show again soon. We are going to do a HBCU preview for the season, because we've done 3 years with the HBCUs now. We've never done a pre-season one, so he's going to come in, let you know about the guys to watch during the season, potentially who've got some draft, got some draft stock in them, potential stars there, because they are. You've seen the HBCU guys balling out in camp. You saw the other day, Farmer, the running back. Was it Farmer? I can't remember. Ian. Oh God, my Lord, what was it? Hang on, just bear with me one moment. I feel terrible because I meant to be giving the HBCUs from love. Was it Ian Wheeler? Am I remembering it right? Yeah, Ian Wheeler got 2 touchdowns the other day in the preseason. Looked damn good. Like, a lot of these HBCU guys are such underappreciated stars just because no one looks it. And Gerald is one of the foremost guys trying to bring it to fruition. He's a coach at the Senior Bowl. He coaches high school football. He loves promoting HBCU football. So we're going to do that show hopefully on the weekend. If not, maybe after. Then we've got a show we're doing on the triple option on the Army Black Knights for Brent. That's coming up as well. So college football podcast is about to explode with content, and then we're back on the regular show next Monday. Brent goes, what's my prediction for the Black Knights? Hey Brent, I don't know whether you saw, but during the pre-season media polls the other day, they had 1 vote for a first place finish in the American, so congratulations on becoming a judge for that, because I can only imagine it's you who gave them a first place finish for that. Lisa goes, me too, and I would rather you do live streams so we can ask questions. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. We've been going 4 years. I'm trying to upgrade my systems. We've been doing this 4 years now. We're trying to be a serious podcast. I've got to get serious with it. It's just money as everything. We trying to raise money, trying to get this done so I can get my equipment done, get my internet done up properly, and then we can do this a lot more regular. It's just my computer is 13 years old now. It's great. I love it. But I've had it 13 years and it's passing its prime, and unfortunately it's not what it once was, so I need to go out and get myself a new system. But we'll always be live when we can, and I will always be around on the pre-recorded shows to try and answer questions as well. So yeah, we will do it every time we can. I think that is it for the questions. So yeah, again, I appreciate everyone who's been in here with me this evening. I know just me on my own will be tiring and monotone. I apologise. It's better when there's a group of us, but you've been great. You asked me a load of questions, kept me going. I really appreciate it. Like I say, we're going to be back later in the week with the college pod. And then we'll be back next week. Matt will be off his holidays. Ash will have his internet sorted, so you'll have a nice little crowd of us to chat about pre-season game 2 against the Chiefs. What are we looking for in the last week of pre-season? And we're very nearly there for Detroit Lions football. Don't forget, you can find us all over Roar of the Lions UK, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube. Like I say, if you can follow us, send us anything that way, that is great. Again, just going back to the start of the show, if anyone missed it, we've just celebrated our 4th anniversary. We've been going for 4 years. We wouldn't be here without you guys. You are tremendous. You know, you have so many great Detroit Lions podcasts to choose from over in America, where it's your natural sport. Yeah, instead, some of you choose to come here and listen to us Brits talk ball as well, and honestly, we couldn't be happier. We really appreciate it. So, 4 years for Roar of the Lions UK, 4 years going strong, and here's to the next 4 years, and the 4 after that, and all these years, Brent, that I'm going to be here saying how much better Navy and Air Force are than Army. Have a great day, everyone. I appreciate you all, and just remains for me to say, one pride.